All right, next we're going to talk about Roman numerals. And with Roman numerals, you've experienced these before in grade school, so we'll just go over these real quick here. They have a numeral for our number 1, it's just like a capital I. They have a numeral for our 5, and that's a capital V. For 10, they get a capital X. For 50, they have an L. For 100, they have a capital C. For 500, a capital D. And for 1,000, a capital M. Now the rules can be a little bit trickier. So it's a little more complex than the Egyptian system. It's still additive. So from left to right, you want to add each numeral, unless it is smaller than the next numeral. In this case, you subtract from the next numeral. Let me give you an example. If I do something like this, VI, we would add from left to right, so that would just be 5 plus 1. And the reason is we go from larger numbers to smaller numbers. But if I switch that around and I write IV, now the I is actually smaller than the V, and so this becomes subtraction. So this becomes 5 minus 1, okay, which would actually equal 4 here. Now you can only subtract from the next two larger numerals. Okay, so what that means is you can only subtract I from a V or from an X. Okay, so you can see IV, you can see IX, but you will never see IL. Okay, because it's too far away. So you can't write 49 this way. Does that make sense? So which numerals can you subtract V from? Well, the next two larger numerals. So we can subtract it from an X and we can subtract it from an L. So we could write VX or we could write VL. Now VX would be pointless because it's 10 minus 5, which is just 5, so you'd never actually see that. And then VL, 5 from 50, would be 45. Okay, and you can never have more than 3 of the same numeral in a row. So you could write I, and that would be 3, but you couldn't write I to equal 4. Okay, so instead of writing I, you have to think using subtraction and write IV. So those are our rules. Let's give some of these a try. So in the following examples, let's write the Roman numerals as Hindu-Arabic numerals. When we're starting off with this, let's just translate these into our numbers. So a C is right here, and it's 100. You can think of like century. That might help you remember it. And then I see an L, so I'm going to write a 50. And then I see an X, so I'm going to write 10. Then I see a 1 and a 1. Now, you just have to check, are these in decreasing order right here? Meaning, is every next numeral smaller than the one before it? Well, it is true. So in that case, you just add all these up. So this would be 150, 62. Okay. All right, let's try our next example. So the D is 500. The C is 100. We saw that one before. X is 10. L is 50. V is 5. And then I is 1. So we have to do this test again to see, are all of them decreasing? So 500 to 100, that's fine. 100 to 10, that's fine. 10 to 50, that one's not okay. So this 10 to 50 right here, we really have to think of as 50 minus 10, which is 40. Okay, 50 to 5, that's decreasing. 5 to 1, that's also decreasing. So the rest of this is addition. So 500 plus 100 plus 10 take away from 50, which is 40, plus 5, plus 1. So all in all here, we get 646. Go ahead and try number 3 on your own here, CDXXIV. Go ahead and pause the video and come on back when you're done. Alright, go ahead and check your work there. The 100 was smaller than the 500, so that's really 500 minus 100, or 400. The two 10s are fine, but then the 1 in front of the 5 means 5 minus 1, so that's 4. And your final number should have been 424. Now there's one more rule that they had in the Roman system, and that is if you have a bar over a number, that means times 1,000. So the bar means times 1,000. So here, CD, we already knew that that was 400. So this is going to equal 400 times 1,000. So this is how you would write 400,000. Because notice their numerals stop here at M, and we couldn't write 400 M's in a row. So they needed some way to be able to write larger numbers, and this is how they did it. Alright, let's move on. Next, we want to translate these Hindu-Arabic numbers, numerals, into Roman numerals. And this can get a little bit more tricky. So 200, well, I can write 2 C's in a row, and that's fine. So there's 200. For 80, I can't write 8 10s in a row. That's not going to work. So I'm going to use this part, this 50 right here, to help me out. So now I have 250. I need 30 more to get up to 80. So I can write 3 X's in a row. So now I'm at 280. And then for 9, I can't write 9 1s in a row. I can't do 5 plus 4 because that would have 4 1s in a row. So instead I'm going to subtract 1 from 10. And the way I'm going to do that is writing IX. So anytime you have to write a 9, it's going to be IX. For our next one, 646. So let's think. For 600, well, we can do a combination of 500 and 100. So there's 600. For 40, again, I can't put 4 10s in a row. So I want to think what's 10 less than 50 is 40. So I'm going to write XL. So that's 10 less than 50. And then for 6, I can write a 5 and a 1. So one thing to note is if we decrease each one of these by 1, so like down to 40, or down by 90, or to 400, okay, or to 900, I can usually accomplish the task here, or even down to 9 or down to 4. I can accomplish these by subtracting 1 away from it. And our last example, we have 33,000. So there are a couple different ways that you can write this, but let's just start with our 30,000. What I would do is write 30 here, and then put a bar over it, and that's going to be 30,000. Now for 3,000, I can put 3 M's in a row. And there's 3,000. Now if we want 800, we're going to take 500 and then 3 100s. For 80, I'm going to take a 50 and 3 10s. And then for 8, I'm going to take a 5 and 3 1s.